I'm Tracy Osborne, and you're listening to the Daring Woman podcast. Imagine the story of a generation being altered by women who were empowered to live their truth and in turn can empower others to live theirs. It's time to rewrite the narrative. Hey ladies, welcome back to another episode. I am sure all of you have heard of the book and the movie Eat, Pray, Love, one of my absolute favorites. I love both the book and the movie. First time I ever saw the movie, I was like, dude, I am so moving to Bali. Oh my God. But my guest today has an even better book, if you can believe it. And it's called Eat, Pray, #FML. And if you don't know what FML stands for, it's F My Life. And yeah, with her story, I totally get why she's got that title. So let's bring on Gabrielle Stone. Gabrielle, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. What an intro. I don't know if I can't say it's better than Eat, Pray, Love. It's definitely different, but thank you.
I'm halfway through it and I am absolutely loving it. I think I left off you were just getting to Barcelona.
Oh yeah. So you're like right in the juice of it.
Yeah. And what's even funnier is I will actually stop, and maybe this sounds kind of creepy, but I will stop and go to your Instagram and scroll down to try and find the pictures from the parts of the book, just so that I can kind of, have that visual in my head as I'm going.
No, I love it. It's not weird at all.
And go see the pictures.
Everyone's been telling me that they've been doing that. It's hysterical. I love it.
Okay. Well, I promise I'm not a creeper.
No, I love it. I think it's awesome. That's kind of why I posted everything and, kind of travel logged it so people could have a visual representation of it while they read.
That's awesome. All right. So I know everybody's sitting there listening. What in the world are they talking about? So why don't you tell us, the story behind everything?
Sure. So in 2017, I found out my husband of almost 2 years had been having an affair with a 19-year-old for 6 months, filed for divorce, left. Shortly after, met a man and we fell madly in love with each other, and it was a whirlwind romance. He convinced me to go on a month-long trip to Italy with him. 48 hours before we were getting on a plane, he told me he needed to go by himself, and I was absolutely devastated. But I had a decision to make, and that was either stay at home and be heartbroken or go travel Europe for a month by myself. So I took a backpack and had no plans and went and did 7 countries over the span of the month and wrote a book about it.
And you've got to read the book, ladies. It's going to be in the show notes, so definitely make sure if you're on the website, you scroll down and get it. Otherwise, go to Amazon. You can pick it up there. But you've got to read this book because it's not just the story about, finding out about her husband and then having her heart broken twice within just a couple of months, but you went on like a whole journey of self-discovery.
I did. I knew even when the character who broke my heart in the book is named Javier, so I'll refer to him as that so people know who I'm talking about. When Javier told me he had to go by himself, even in that moment, as heartbroken as I was, I knew that it was happening for a reason. Since I was a little girl, my biggest fear has been being okay by myself and not wanting to be alone. And the universe literally delivered a clear way for me to go face that head on. And it really is a journey. While, there are some mistakes and ridiculous stories and partying and fun, it's a journey of, yes, a little bit in Amsterdam. It's a journey of me really finding myself and healing a lot of deep-rooted beliefs that I've had throughout my life and learning how to love myself, which was always one of my biggest challenges.
You're writing my story. In fact, partway through, I think I messaged you on Instagram and I'm like, oh my God, you're writing this book about me. I'm the same way. Ever since I was little, I have had a fear of abandonment. I have literally been bounced from man to man to man since I started dating. So probably what?
Yeah.
14? And this right now for me is the first time ever that I have the time and the space to figure out who I am with, dealing with the death of my husband. So I totally get, where you're at, because I've kind of lived a lot, several of the same things. But
Yeah.
interesting to me though, is that, and I don't really want to, well, I'm going to mention your mother, but I don't really want to make this about your mother, but
Oh, that's
because
okay.
of who she is and what she does, I'm just, it's interesting to me that you still had those fears. And for those of you listening, her mom is Dee Wallace, best known as the mother in E.T. I've known Dee for quite a while. She is absolutely a doll. But your mom's a healer, and she's very spiritual, and that's actually how I really met her and started talking with her. So I'm just, because of that, it's interesting that you still had those fears.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a really amazingly loving household that was very spiritual, but my history and my story, when you take a little girl that loses her father suddenly at 6 years old and then loses her high school sweetheart at age 18, that textbook fear of abandonment. I mean, literally the people that I loved in my life died. And they were both male figures, and it created not only a deep-rooted fear of abandonment, but also a lot of issues in the way that I handle relationships, and that I always need a man in my life. And it hasn't been till this point in my life where I'm finally really comfortable and even happy being single and on my own and in my own skin. So my mom growing up was the best mother I ever could have asked for. But, no matter what healing you have and tools that you use, until you really are able to strip it all down to the root of what it is and go face it yourself, it doesn't really fully get healed.
God, that is so true. I'm just thinking back to my past, and my parents getting divorced when I was 5, and me ending up being sent to live with an emotionally abusive Italian grandmother, as opposed to going to my dad's when my mom realized she couldn't really take care of me as a single mom. That's where that's where my abandonment issues started as well. And yeah, I totally get it with the relationships and not wanting to be alone. And on one of the other podcasts I did a while back, I actually had a revelation, and I was talking to a woman who works with relationship addicts and love addicts, and I never even realized that was a thing.
Right.
But when I was talking with her, she was describing me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's me. I am a relationship and love addict. And
Wow.
that was a huge revelation. And that's one of the reasons why I bounced from guy to guy.
Yeah. And usually if you trace it back to your childhood, you can pinpoint either one or a few defining moments or a defining time in your life that really planted that seed to continue throughout your entire timeline.
Absolutely. God, so much. Our parents screw us up so much, don't they?
They really do. They do the best they can, but
I know, even without meaning to.
Right.
Thank gosh, how bad have I screwed up my kids? But so let's talk a little bit more about your journey though, and what was it like, being alone for the first time? Was there a lot of fear? Was there excitement? What kind of emotions were you going through?
All the emotions.
All of the above.
I was absolutely terrified. I've traveled alone by myself, but getting on a plane and getting off to go work on a film set with a bunch of people, never, to do a trip by myself, especially in that magnitude, across the country across the world, where I had never been, and, by myself for such a long period of time. So I was absolutely terrified. luckily in London, which was my first stop, my best friend from high school lived there. So I did have a starting point with some familiarity, which was, thank God. I don't know how I would have done it without that. But there was also a lot of excitement and a lot of, it was like, I'm a badass. Like I got off that plane and my first day in London, I was by myself walking around, and it was this freeing experience of not having anyone to answer to, and, being like, yeah, okay, I'm by myself. I'm doing this. Like, how cool that, most people would go through this situation and just be at home crying. And I was like, nope, I'm getting on a plane and I'm going to go do this. And it was the best decision I've ever made. I mean, I came back from that trip an entirely different woman. I urge anyone and everyone to travel by themselves at some point. It really shows you who you are as a person and makes you really look at things in your life, and you meet people and you meet them as your authentic self, because you don't have time to have the layers of BS that we all put on over. It's just a really life-changing experience.
I'm jealous. I've got 3 more years until my kids are out of the house, or at least graduated.
And then you're like, I'm gone.
I'm like, I'm out of here, man.
Yeah.
My first thought is I want to get an RV and just kind of tour the country, because, with what I do with Daring Woman and with my trauma coaching and everything, that can be done anywhere as long as I have internet connection. So
for sure.
I totally am going to tour the country first and then head overseas.
Oh yeah, that's it's the best.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. But you've met some incredibly interesting people along the way. Like, I'm only maybe halfway through the book, so I haven't even read about all of the people that you've met. But you met some really cool people, and
I did.
I think, just like you were saying, being able to let your hair down and really be you and learn who you are allowed you to really connect with these people in your adventure.
Yeah. And especially when you're by yourself, when you have the comfort of a friend, it's different. You can rely on that person to kind of hang out, just the two of you, or you feel more comfortable talking to people because it's in a group setting. When you're by yourself, you're really forced out of your comfort zone to connect with people and interact with people and put yourself out there. And it really strips away a lot of, the insecurities that we have, because it forces us to walk through them, which is so powerful and important. But I met so many cool people on this journey, that I'm still friends with and still in touch with, that a couple I've seen since I've come home. And it really, when you meet people in that state and that type of dynamic, it creates a very close bond very quick.
Oh, I don't doubt it. But for those of us who are stuck here and can't do that kind of a journey, what kind of things did you learn that maybe we could apply here for those of us who, need to really kind of do our own eat, pray, whatever type journey? Yeah.
So you haven't gotten there yet, but in the very end of the book, I write about really my answer to how to self-love. And it was such a hard concept for me to grasp. And I was, kind of sitting around going, okay, I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to love myself. But nobody could write me out instructions and clearly tell me how to do that. And everybody always preaches, it's the most important thing. You have to learn how to love yourself first before you can love anyone else. I was like, okay, but how? So I finally grasped that concept, and it really changed my life. So in the book, I call it the self-love cocktail, because obviously I have to equate it to some type of drink. And so what you do is you sit down and you write out all the things that you can give yourself that make your soul happy. So for me, it was going to the gym, meditating, creating, dancing. And then you have to commit to giving yourself those things every single day. Some days, you'll only be able to muster up 2 things, and that's fine. It'll be a stiffer drink, like a vodka martini, and you'll give yourself, the gym and meditating. I'm going to do that every day, gym and meditate. And then, once you've implemented that every day for a little while, then you can add in some more stuff, and it'll be more like a fruity cocktail with like a splash of creating and, poured over ice and dancing. And you commit to doing this every single day. And before you know it, you're starting to feel better, and you're starting to really get to a better place mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And that's because you're loving yourself. It's such a simple concept that in order to love yourself and to practice self-love, you just have to give yourself things that you love. And it was like this giant light bulb, and it was so simple and so easy, but no one had ever clearly explained it to me like that. And it really did change my life. And it's something that everybody can do. You literally sit down and write your list out, and you say, okay, I'm starting with these 2 things, I'm doing these. And every single day you have to give yourself at least one thing on that list.
Wow. That is the best explanation I have ever heard, because I struggle with it too. And I think so many of us struggle with it. And, and I think a lot of it is because of, the way we were brought up and stuff. We have a warped idea of what love really is. And I could never grasp the fact that, what does it look like? I just really don't. I get loving my kids. I get loving my partner. I get loving my friends and my other family, but I don't understand the concept of what it means to love myself. I just don't get it.
Yeah, exactly.
That was brilliant.
And you explained it so well just then, because with your significant other or your family or your kids, that's like a feeling that you have. So that's what we associate love with. Like, I'm in love with you. I love this person. It's a feeling. But when you're talking about self-love, it's something that you practice and things that you have to do. And then once you start doing those, the result is that feeling for yourself. But we're all just standing looking in the mirror going, okay, like, I love you. Great.
Right.
Let's feel better.
And it's
not, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm supposed to be doing that every morning. I haven't been doing that. Sorry, Taryn, I haven't been doing my morning. You're beautiful. Because I don't know, I just feel stupid looking in the mirror telling myself that I love you and you're beautiful. And
well, so but you don't have to do it looking in the mirror. You can lay in bed in the morning and shut your eyes and put your hands like over your heart and just feel that, like, say I love you there and feel it. There's so many different ways to do it, but it's really the physical practice of actions, giving yourself the things that make you happy. Because ultimately, and people will be like, well, I have kids, I don't have time, or I have this. It's like, look, I get it. Everybody's busy, but set your alarm 10 minutes earlier and meditate in bed. Like, you have to set the time aside to do the things for yourself, because otherwise you're not really showing up as well as you can for the other people in your life if you're not happy and you're not taking care of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. They have the saying, you've got to put on your own oxygen mask before you help the person next to you. You can't pour from an empty cup, all of that. And as women, it is our nature. It is ingrained in our DNA to put everybody first before us. And
well, yeah. And this book, my whole journey was a perfect example of that. This whole Europe trip, I was taking care still after he had broken my heart. I was still taking care of this man, and I was putting him before myself and his feelings before mine. And it took me a really long time on that journey to realize that I needed to be the one that came first, and I was who mattered most, and that's not selfish. That's okay.
Yeah.
Because it's totally in our nature.
Yeah. And then we have that guilt. It's, well, you're putting yourself before me. Yeah, I am.
And you know what? The people that are supposed to be in your life are going to respect that and love you more for that and
Right.
champion you for that.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, you have to explain to our listeners your thought onion, because that is one of the most brilliant things I have ever read. And I started using it. And I'm just like,
Yes.
Oh my God, this thing is killer. We have to make sure we talk about the thought onion.
I love it. Okay. So the thought onion is how I describe how to look at your thought patterns and how to understand what's at the root of your reactions and your thoughts. So you think of it like an onion. The outer layer is the superficial thought, which is the first thought that comes to your brain when you're having a reaction. The layer underneath that is the authentic thought, which is, when you take a step back and you're like, okay, why am I having this reaction? What's actually happening that's making me feel this way? That's the authentic layer of the onion. And once you peel that back, the root of it all is the subconscious thought, which is the thought you really have to kind of dig to see where it's stemming from in the first place. And that's where, the meat and potatoes and the golden nugget is, where
Right.
you can really be like, oh, this is why I'm having that reaction. And this is the issue that I need to kind of look at and address and heal. So it's a really great way to kind of analytically step back and figure out why you're having certain reactions instead of reacting on a superficial level and just kind of going off of emotion. And it really helps you uncover some deep-rooted beliefs. And I use it all the time. And people that have read the book already have called me and been like, oh my God, I've been using this and it's incredible.
Yeah.
So
You make sure you trademark your thought onion.
Yeah.
For real. But yeah, because it's a genius tool. And I'm like, when I first read it, I was thinking, holy cow, yeah. Because we tend to react, and our first thought is not usually the accurate one.
No, almost like 99% of the time it's not.
Exactly. Especially when we're dealing with triggers. And so many of us who are listening, we have a lot of triggers. There's a lot of us who go through some kind of abuse or sexual assault or, cancer, things like that. So we have triggers, and, any kind of trauma is going to leave you with triggers. And,
For sure.
You hit those triggers and you're going to get that initial reaction. And so the thought onion is great to say, okay, wait, let's stop and really look at this for a second. Why did her shoes really piss me off?
Yeah.
Something that's stupid.
And it's a way instead of just sitting there and like thinking about it, it's a 3-step process that you can really be like, okay, this is this, this caused this is what's at the root of it. And then you can, it's not only then healing it and addressing it, just knowing where it's coming from helps bring you some peace around what it is, I feel like.
Right. Yeah, it's healing. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this with us. And ladies, again, y'all got to go read this book. You're going to love it. I was reading it the other night, 11 o'clock at night. My eyes were bleeding. I was so tired, and I got the damn thing down. I was finally like, oh, gotta go, gotta put it down.
I love it.
So I can't wait to pick it back up and finish it. So definitely get it. It's you won't regret it. So Gabrielle, thank you so much. It has been absolutely awesome to talk with you.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me on, and I can't wait to hear what you think of the rest of it.
Oh, I'll let you know for sure. And ladies, as always,
Awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show. I am so grateful for each and every one of you. And I know that we're all going through life. And so if you need support, you need love, you need courage, encouragement, whatever, make sure you come over and join us in our Daring Women community over on Facebook. It is a safe haven. It is there for us to just love and support one another. No hate, no judgment. You can talk about anything except religion and politics, because that pisses everybody off. And, and just know that you're loved and it's a safe place to come and talk. So facebook.com/groups/Daring Women. We'll see you over there, and we'll talk to you next week on the show.